Part 2. Do you have the time for me to share all to what this and what that is about? What is it about this? Who makes it unfair to that? And which confounds minds mistakenly with alien expression also adds to a taste of familiarity for reflection. The term "this" is a clever disguise to that, which makes present intentions and expressions easy excuses for living, but ever so disposes and disrupts future plans. But the word "that" has an operantness to it, and is the difference which makes that required for living joyfully and purposefully, but is a rarity, but that's complex, perplexing, and unfortunately, vitally essential, and an evanescently elusive necessity. In order to get to the truest of grips, is to express this singularity in question, to this presentation of our individual perceptions. It is because time really is the most important resource that we own. We all hear that it is, but what actually happens is that we take the path of least resistance, and it is called this. Yes, I'm talking about the word "this." This is a word which is striving to become of universal appeal, but also all too hedonistically experienced, and real, also accepted, but sadly also part of the most bittersweet of truths, and realities not so rarely, but ever so profoundly. What makes it all so unfortunate for that is because it stands alone, implicitly reviled, implacable, and only indicated rarely about until afterwards, and is mistakenly identified mostly as this, until imminent disaster. What most of us actually do is this, and rarely think about more of that. The reason why this is night and day, and is but a dangerous term on display, because this rarely turns into useful, good conditions, but into unpredictable ambitions, anxious and disempowered situations, risky, sour, and quite not comparable to that, but quite on the contrary. This is truly insane, because most of us will do this more often than that, but will mistakenly proclaim is that we rose to that path to enlightenment, but unfortunately actually descended into this tired web wrought with entanglements, lost in the translations, built from emotional self-sabotaged destruction and revelations of solicitation, fearing the physical connection, and not propounding that we one day will not be able to come back safely from the brinks of insane decay, and truly from a conversant reality that was accessible easily, but took for granted as this variegated immensity. For duality begins to falter. As this present structure fades, we walk in order to run, and push ourselves to challenge our authorities, priorities, and lead our lives accordingly. But it doesn't matter what I think. I'm not gonna relate this to the exquisitely inspired true wholeness of perfection, and the oneness we always tend to abate and debate, and deprived of any closeness of comparison to any human interaction, sharing stories, yearnings to care, or any other true feeling of that. Because we and well others rarely consider about thinking considerably more considerably about me, and also we, or to us, but more than about you, or I, and of ourselves. And just to exhibit, think about a place from a friendly perspective of a time randomly inhibited, that's in a part of space that you did or thought to have, but didn't or couldn't think to be, in the presence of what we thought of as treasured and truest of friends, right in it, implicit to us, but rather was what this is and was thought as that to none other than, but only of a hitching post, selfishly scratching to one's own self-conscious recessiveness, desperately needing an answered reprieve of it, and a respite to coordinate it, in order for this to take its place, and whisper its concordances. But no matter what the pain was for, or given unto me, I decided to live in the here, and now, while intimating impetuous contextual contents, to connect and direct a practical approach for others to follow, but also summons others desperately disparate and incapable, and who are just able to journey slightly forward, like it had only made room to hold a rumor for an addition to gossip, with its questionable suspicion of repudiated acceptance. It is an objectionable obstinacy of approach, which aggravates and is reticent, but toyed with riddled opportunistic prime to render, and is what you intended to put to this side of me, as to which, with no element of excitement was taken to thinking or doing, but was also less important to keep in mind than as to more important matters to you of having a more sensible, comprehensible, and incomparable masturbation routine. But that's just gross, that I had to reveal it, and awkward almost, by bringing in an affronted ability for you to testify, just as we laugh at ourselves, without reservation, but inside, secretly hiding, and crying with fearful loneliness within, as to how much we cannot control this natural procession of our lives, because we think that we failed to actually control what was so important to us, or to any useful proposition we believed entitled to us, but was struck with disparaging afflictions. To a trained mind that is focused, the follies to this becomes often much easier in overcoming, but unprepared to those that lead with good intentions, can often find life to be overwhelming. But the simple trick is to recognize is the codex expectant in order to afford us a sustainable hack to all of this, is which often is overlooked and with its subtlety skewed and displaced right before our eyes. Many will take this and run to the hills only later to find out is that was actually what contained most of the thrills, and was not this, which was what kept giving us these vainly cheap thrills. If you still have yet to finally notice, the overarching message is that really wasn't what this was, and to not be mistaken anymore, we must surely get down to the core of this. Maybe it was surely what it was, and what was to blame for all of this insanity, even to becoming so lame, it turns purposeful living extremely confusing, and lastly, inane. We tend to see that time, and this life is but only a game, and as if all of this time here was always unlimited, and hoping the same, if that life would be there too, and always will surely remain. To be continued.